Hey guys, what's going on? It's Junior, and today we're talking about guards and specialists. We're going to be going over some of their sub-archetypes. Sug. But we're going to talk about guards today. These are very good units to use. You definitely want to use them on your teams. They're very high damage melee units, generally. And you can use them in your teams in various ways. And some of the archetypes, some of them might be, you recognize them from other classes, but also they have very unique stuff that they do. So the very first one is the Duelist. It's the 1v1me bros. They're back. You put them down to pretty much delete mages. That's probably the best usage I've found for them. Or if you have like an overflow of enemies somehow real quick that you need something to die, and you're not very scared of it dying, because some of them are pretty cheap. Usually pretty cheap. High damage. Usually have a lot of HP. And in some situations in late game, these are actually preferred over vanguards or your tanks or your defenders, because of how high their damage is. It kind of outweighs like how many people they can block and whatnot. So you definitely check them out, see how you can utilize them. Some of them have some interesting abilities, like Franca. She ignores defense potentially, so it's super awesome, but she also deletes her defense. But if you're going against melee, or you're going against your mages, like I was suggesting, it doesn't really matter if you get rid of your defense, right? You don't need a defense stat, so think about that. Also, we have your survivalists. These are your like Estelle. You have your alligator waifu, right? And you got your shark waifu over here, Spectre. These are your survival type of units, and there's other ones too. They have usually very high defense, high HP, and some kind of lifesteal or heal attached to them, where when they kill something, they can get some more HP back. So these are super useful for if you need another tank of a different kind, and you're just like, hey, maybe I have synergy, maybe you have Scatty, right? You have Abyssal Hunter synergy now. So now the Spectre and Scatty are definitely great to use together because they buff each other by 15%. That's huge. Maybe you need that in your team. So definitely check them out. Utilize them into your teams in that kind of way. And they usually they can block up to 3 people sometimes. So they actually do replace some of your defenders in some situations. And they can be very useful. You also have your magic type. So you have like Moose, for example. You have Lapland. You have Midnight. These are ones that either just do arts damage in general, or they have a switch. You can hit a button, pretty much hit one of their abilities, and they'll turn into a magic dealer. These are ones that you would use against very like thick units that have like high defense. They have like super high defense. You're like, man, I don't have enough mages. Maybe I can't place enough mages. Maybe I need to save those spots for healers or other different units. These are ones that you can replace on the ground and just do arts damage real quick and kind of dip out. Then we have like the last class, the last sub-archetype. I like to just call Silver Ash and Co. They just do whatever they want. You're like, what do you mean? They just do weird stuff. Doberman. You're like, what does she do? I don't know. She just has a bigger range than other people, and she buffs 3 stars. So if you're running a 3-star team, Doberman just straight up buffs 3 stars. Really weird. But she does that. You have Frostleaf, who does range attacks for no reason with slows on the guard unit, which is really weird, you know? So that's another unit you can use. And you have like Indra, who has her uses too. She's very weird. You have Lapland, she's kind of in that group too, because she can also like lock abilities. So they have very weird ones, where Silver Ash, for example, who just has a ton of crazy abilities, such as like reveals cloaking and other like ranged things. And it's a weird class. It's just kind of like you have a bunch of gimmicks that you can potentially use for your teams, and it can be very useful. So potentially try it out, mess around, discover some new things. These are really cool. This whole guide, now I'm thinking about it a little bit more, is kind of the more fun guide, honestly, if I really think about it. So we have specialists too. These ones have just versatile ways to attack, and a lot of them don't have really high stats for attacking, but you can use them in some kind of cool ways. So for about half of the specialists, they have an ability called Shift. And Shift is, they're like, what the heck's Shift? It's either you can put them on blocks like casters, or you can put them on the ground like your regular ground units. And these are ones that some of them you need to have out of the way, and some of them you need to have in the way. So depending on the situation, you definitely want to put them up on high ground or low ground and utilize them in that kind of way. Another thing that we have here, I only have one of them currently because Project Red likes to evade me constantly, and some of y'all feel me on that one with the recruitments. But we have fast redeploys. These are ones that are super cheap costs. Like 6, that's nothing. You can place her a million times, but you're like, man, but it takes a whole minute for her to come back. No, she has fast redeploy, so they usually have like 30-40 seconds or something like that for a redeploy. And they also have fast deployment, so they'll actually be reduced cost just to put out and buy elite, leveling up and getting them to elite and whatnot. They'll actually get cheaper and whatnot. So it's kind of different from other characters. They don't really generally have that. And some of them, they usually have like on hit or on deployment special abilities. Like Gravel, she gets a massive shield, 100% of her max HP shield. You put her down in front of somebody that would just normally chunk somebody, and she's not even gonna feel it. She's like, oh, that's really cute. You have Project Red, who you throw her out and she does a stun as soon as you throw her out, which is amazing. So currently, these are the 2 fast redeploys that we have. And if you do have them, you can utilize them for different things. There's some strategies that you might find them to be way better than trying to struggle to deal with whatever you're trying to deal with, because they're just that useful. Very cool. Now we're gonna move on to the push types. The push types, a lot of people use these. We have Shaw, the rap god, and we have Iron Eater. FE stands for iron on a periodic table. So Iron Eater. A lot of people are like, what? But yeah, Iron Eater. So they are push types. They're S1s. They have a lower threshold or lower cap on pushing. So pretty much you have to level up their skills significantly higher than normal if you want to push very large enemies. But if you do elite them and you get their S2s unlocked, they will have access to earlier big unit pushes. But the cooldowns are longer generally, and sometimes it's not always worth it. So these are ones, they have their uses, very cool uses. Do some fun stuff with them. If you have pitfalls, if you have levels where you can they have no walls, whatnot, you can use these characters to push them off. Or maybe there's a hazard you want to throw somebody into. You're like, I'm gonna throw this panda out here. She's gonna push them to this fire. Go ahead and utilize these things, mess around with that. And then opposite from that, we have the pull types. So we have rope, who uses her rope to pull people, right? And we have Cliffheart, who also uses her rope to pull people too. They have longer ranges, as you can see here, and they actually get even longer when you promote them. And you'll be able to pull people into pitfalls or other hazards, or even set them up for a dunk. Like say you have somebody that is very heavy damage and you don't want them to go into a certain lane, you can pull them into another lane to your heavy, defended lane, to make sure that they attack that unit, which you can do with these, or you can do it with the push type units. It's up to you. You can really be creative. Try to figure out something with these units is really cool. And then our third, our last type, is this Madacorp. So far, she's the only one that's just super weird. She has evasion, she has cloaking, she has dodge, dodge mechanics. She has very high damage. If you pair her with Nightingale, she can actually get invincibility pretty much just from arts of damage. She can't block anything, which is really weird. But she does do high damage, and it's kind of, you use her as a side hitter and, potentially proc some abilities with her. So it's very interesting. Specialists are very cool. You can do some interesting things. I'm going to show you guys real quick an example of something that you can do with a specialist. The specialist, a lot of times you're like, oh man, what can I do with this? Hey, 4-4, very end of the game that we have so far. I'm going to solo this map with just Shaw. I'll show you guys. It's pretty interesting. You're like, wait, what? Just Shaw? Yeah, the rap god is literally going to do this thing for you. So what I do is, you have a bunch of blocks. You have 10 blocks you can deploy. And then you have a bunch of these spots right here, which are they do a lot of burn damage to the enemies. They buff them crazy. So they do crazy damage. But they lose health, as you can see over here. They're running around, they're losing health. And so what you do is you block, they're all routed. All these enemies are routed a very particular way. You have 2 goals, and then you just block off these goals in this particular order. And at certain points, they're going to be swapping this block to this spot over here several times to allow some of the enemies to turn around and kill themselves just by spending more time before they get to the goal. So if you use some clever mechanics here with your blocks and timing and whatnot, right here, boom, I went ahead and blocked him and made him turn around, and everybody's like, oh, we're gonna run this way, and you're like, oh no, he has a lot of health, let me go ahead and reblock that again. So you kind of you will set everything back up in a very particular way, and then you're going to be using the rap god at some point in time. She's going to come out, and then you're going to bully the Crown Slayer. Crown Slayer is one of the bane of a lot of people's existence. And right here, we're just going to do a bully showcase with Specialist. Because what happens is Crown Slayer wants to teleport to the other side of the first blocker. Shaw over here is the first blocker in front of the goal. Crown Slayer is like, I'm going to get to that goal. And it teleports inside the block. And then guess what? You get yeeted across the map. That feels bad, man. That feels bad, man. So we just over here, we just pretty much just use Shaw. In her whole existence, this is to sit here. We face her downwards, south, so that she can push Crown Slayer every time he teleports. And then right here, if we don't need him Shaw anymore, we get rid of Shaw so that we can redeploy her at a later time. We're gonna end up using her over here on the side. But see what I mean? There's a lot of like weird stuff that you can do in these maps. Like for example, in this particular fight, you can do this. There's another map where you can bully Crown Slayer again and use all. Sorry about that. I guess I got a Discord call. You could use your pull and your push type units to go ahead and do just that. You can pull and push units, and you pretty much like just stop them just from like them taking hits from getting pushed and pulled in all directions. They'll just take a lot of damage and they'll actually just die from that. So it's very, very, very cool. If you guys want to watch the rest of this part right here, I'll go ahead and run this right here. If y'all just are done watching this, then there's no new information that I'll be doing. I'm just gonna show you the rest of this map. If you guys want to do this particular thing yourselves, I'll also explain some of this stuff. So you're pretty much waiting for like the big red guys to come by. They're the most tanky guys. You need them to get stopped. So pretty much this guy's gonna die over here. This is a very tight spot. You're gonna put this block here. You're gonna hope that when you put this block down, you do have to make sure that this particular guy touches this block over here, or otherwise it's gonna fail. And then you go ahead and block them again, and then you make them walk around again, and then they'll just loop around and die before they'll ever make it to the goal. So there's a couple spots where you do those like little, you flip the box, on and off on that. And those are the parts that make this map a little more difficult to set up. But once you go ahead and do it, you have a farm over here, and you will get 3 stars with just Shaw. And then she'll wrap something at you, and then you're like, wow. And then we got a lucky drop. We even get wallpaper. Look at that, so easy. We got extra drop, we got gold, we got some money, we got a lucky drop wallpaper. This is amazing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys have any other questions, drop them in the comments. You can always find me on stream on Twitch and in the Discord. We have links all below. Check them out. I'll see you guys later for another video, guys. Thank you so much.